And we live. Welcome to the Dear Son Show, where we help men and young boys know now what we wish we knew then. Got a different change up for you today. As you know, by the time you see this episode, there's a series that the network is running right now. We are highlighting women. It's you should see this during the month of March. March is known as National Women's History Month. So, with that being said, we typically check in, and I'm one of your hosts, Jey Blac. Our other host, D. Johns, is not actively participating tonight, but he is. He in the room. He's just not in front of the camera tonight. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our guest of the night, Miss Natalie Clark. Miss Clark.
Hello, hello.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
What you got? What's going on? What's you don't know, when we first come into an episode, we like to check in with the guests, with each other, and just see how your week, how your day going. What you want to share?
My day is going great. We're in the middle of February already, so just planning for Women's History Month.
Absolutely. So, to bring the audience up to speed, who is Natalie Clark?
Natalie Clark is a girl that had a dream, and had a dream that she wanted to do something different from what she came from. And as a result, I worked hard. Natalie Clark is an intrinsically motivated individual that believes that she can do anything that she puts her mind to and encourages others to do the same.
I made some points that we wanted to highlight that I felt were important that the audience knows about you as well. Parenting platform. So obviously, are you a parent? If so, what's the dynamic? How many children? The sexes, if you will, however much you would like to share about it.
I am a parent. I have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. My older daughter is 25. My middle child is a girl, and she's 23. And then I have a son that will be 16 years old in 2 days.
School age, young man,
Yep.
That pivotal moment that we've spoken about so much on the platform. So I won't dive into it right now, but we're absolutely going to visit that to get your perspective. We always are able to share our perspectives, our being myself and D. Johns, but we're interested in the mother's perspective because mom has something to do with it as well. And there's perhaps something you deal with that you want to share with that somebody could possibly feed off. But more so, again, trying to have dual coverage, if you will, for I've noticed, I've seen some things that you do to empower women, to empower young girls, and that stood out. That really caught my attention about it. What led you to say this matters to me, or as some people would put it, what is your why as it deals with that topic?
Well, the reason why I really started it is because a lot of times as we get older, it's really hard to find a tribe. It's hard to find a sisterhood. It's hard to find genuine people. It's been challenging for me. And so I thought, if it's been challenging for me, I know it's been challenging for other people.
Mhm.
So rather than looking for it, I decided to be able to create it, as well as create a mentorship program for young girls so that they can see what we as women are modeling so that they can follow in that same path.
Absolutely. Now, modeling and mentoring those young ladies, have you noticed, how long have you been doing that first before I get ahead of myself?
I have mentored for over 20 years, but for myself to really dive into the topics that are needed,
Mhm.
4 years.
In that 4-year tenure doing that, what stood out most about it? And what I mean by that, without being too vague, is a noticeable change. Because a lot of times people will say that they would like to see the young men and the young women do things differently. But I applaud you for actually taking a step in the direction to do something about it. What's the biggest change you could say you've noticed going into a room year one, and I'm talking to these young ladies about things that would mold them to be better or stronger women versus now, like the progression, if you will, the difference?
One of the biggest things that I've noticed, especially with the girls that have been with me for a while,
Mhm.
is their level of confidence. And that's really a big thing to me because a lot of adults, including men and women, aren't confident. So if we can work with these kids while they are young, teaching them to really love themselves, embrace who they are, and be confident in their own skin, I can only imagine how they will be when they become adults. So the girls that were really shy, didn't want to talk much. When I asked how confident they were in themselves, a lot of them would give me about a 2 or 3. But some of those same girls now will give me a number 8. So for me, that's a big deal because I've worked with her enough to believe in herself to be confident in who she is.
Hence the value in that thing. You're an educator.
Yes.
With that being said, that leads me to another question. In my days of yesteryear, if you will, growing up, the talking point was always there were studies that were being released saying that young boys were confident in the classroom, and so hence they felt like they were having more success because even if they would be wrong, young boys didn't care about being loud and wrong. They would just blurt it out. Whereas the young ladies in the classroom, they would absolutely have the correct answer, but because they were shy or timid or didn't want to take the risk associated with being wrong in front of the class, they would hold the answer. So now, my first part of that question is, you're in the classroom or around these children now. Do you see a noticeable change in that, or is that still kind of the norm right now? And I'm headed somewhere with this question.
Not necessarily so the norm. With boys, you really have to catch their interest. So if they are interested, then they're going to be engaged. What I see a lot of times in the classes, the girls are typically the ones that are the pleasers, the ones that are answering the questions for the most part. Now, it depends on the age of the children as well, because some are caught up in what the opposite gender is thinking and vice versa. So sometimes that can cause them to not really respond. And just overall, some kids are really shy. If you look at kids about 5 to 8 years old, most of the time, some of them are fearless. But along the way, something has happened that causes them to really silence their voices, not speak up as much. They could be the brightest child in the room, but they could have been teased for being really, really smart. And so because of that, they kind of shy back, or they could have been teased for not really having the answer. So now, rather than really responding or asking for clarification, they just kind of are silent.
Yeah. And my purpose for asking that question is, in the industry now, corporate, from whether it's blue collar, white collar, there's a noticeable shift in the job market where women are absolutely taking life by the horns, if you will. My background is in logistics, so even in the trucking industry, there's a surplus of women truck drivers, women dispatchers, the warehouse workers, the forklift drivers, corporate even, and I don't want to say even as though this is new, but they're more fearless and willing to take the chances necessary to hold those positions or obtain those positions without shying back or giving someone else the spotlight, if you will. If they're deserving of it, they're like, absolutely, I deserve it, I'm getting it. So that's why I was asking about the dynamic in the classroom. Same being the opposite of young men.
Yeah.
The opposite is true. Right now, there's a noticeable downtrend towards young men. What is that? Gen Z now, the
Yeah.
18 to 26, and they're being more passive. They're less likely to take risks or chance. And I'm not trying to dump everybody in a bucket, but just generally speaking, because they're more passive and they're not as aggressive or willing to take these chances or go out and assert themselves or continue in education even. So now that's why I initially asked about the change in the mentorship and the young ladies that you're seeing, so that maybe to entice more parents to bring their daughters out to these mentoring programs, bring their sons out to mentoring and STEM programs to stimulate their activity and interest, and not just taking a back seat or being passive. Like, you have the right answer, and even if you don't be so afraid to be wrong, as it is important to take the chance. So from there, Um, I don't want to jump the gun or jump around too much. We've already stated that you're an educator. Some other accolades. I see you're an author as well. Um, what about your mentorship? And well, I don't want to answer this for you. What led you to become an author?
Well, again, the title of it is Dare to Dream.
Dare to dream.
And so, again, Natalie Clark was once this little girl that had a dream. And so I knew that I had to work hard. You know, we talk about having a vision, but what's a vision without goals? What's goals without monitoring the steps? And sometimes people have a hard time finding their why. Sometimes people have a hard time really staying focused on what their dream is. And so I wanted to come up with something that could be used for a man, a woman, a boy, or a girl that has a dream but needs help or needs a guide in being able to track that. And so it's Dare to Dream, a guided journal for confidence and success. Because confidence can get you in a room and it can prevent you from being in a room. It can also keep you from chasing a dream or it can keep you going after your dream. And so that was the whole purpose behind it.
3 things I asked you what people should know. I'm going to put a little twist on it. I'm going to call out the 3 things one at a time, obviously. And I want you to speak on these 3 things from the perspective of how it would benefit our youth, right?
Okay.
So the importance of our youth and our children understanding these 3 things more so than the adults, because a lot of times the more passionate the youth become about it, then the adults kind of will jump on their bandwagon, honestly. The first of the 3 things people should know, community. How important is it to you for our young men and young women to truly understand what community means?
Is very important to me.
Mhm.
The reason why is because being in the community, it allows me to be able to connect with people.
Mhm.
It also allows me to be able to inspire people. And whatever your business is, even if it's this, even if it's logistics, whatever it is, it takes the community for you to be able to really do what you do. And so to establish a presence of being in the community, letting people know that you are there, what you have to offer, how you can assist, also being able to volunteer and give back. A lot of kids today are really truly entitled. And they don't realize that there are so many kids in their own community. You think that they have the same life as you because you're so accustomed to it. But in reality, they don't. So it's important to me that I have the kids to go back and volunteer in the community and see that we are blessed to truly be a blessing to others. So community is a big deal. Whatever your parents have worked for, your parents have worked for. But it is your job to be able to work for those same things or to be able to keep up with what you are used to and not feel that you are entitled just because you have had.
I like that a lot. That's that's in line with a couple of conversations uh D. Johns and I have had about topics dealing with adult parents. I mean, adult children at the home, in the home still,
Mm-hmm.
and some other topics that are PAP parenting, punk A parenting, as we call it, of being too lenient. We had another episode where we discussed gentle parenting versus PAP parenting. Where's the line and what differentiates between the two? So the second word, the first was community. The second word people should know and the importance of this to our children. And again, I want the adults to get this portion too, because this next word is it's almost like we're so caught up in we know everything or we have something figured out to where we're almost too prideful to go to someone our equal or even if they're younger than us or they have more experience than us, but we're not willing to recognize it, the importance of tapping into that energy or that resource. The second word is mentorship. The importance of mentorship with these children, of understanding to teach or give the habit, form the habit of seeking from someone above your own understanding. To you, your personal opinion or belief or guidance with mentorship as it pertains to these young individuals as well.
And I don't think it's just to young individuals, because regardless of what stage we are in our lives, we should all have a mentor.
Yes.
And a mentor can be someone that's older, younger than you. It's someone that you look up to, someone that you can learn from, someone that you know has your best interest in mind, is that going to really be rooting for you. And so our children need to know that, yes, you have your parents, but as a parent, we know that it's more than about us.
Right.
It takes a village. You know, we heard that growing up, and for us, it was your aunt, your uncle, maybe your grandparents, maybe some people in the church, but they still served as mentors for you. But fortunately and unfortunately, today, sometimes we don't necessarily have mentors in our families that we can look up to, that's inspiration to us. And so for me, if I can pour into anybody, you know, specifically I work with women and I work with young girls. Yes, I can mentor a young man, but I can't teach a young man how to be a young man. There is a presence of a father or a male role model that is needed to really mentor that young man so that he grows up with the values that are necessary for him to become a great man. And so I feel that mentorship is important in all areas of life for all people, as I stated. Even though I'm a very involved parent,
Yes.
very present with my kids, I put my own children in mentorships. Sometimes those mentors are saying the same things that the parents are saying, but the fact that it's coming from someone else, even adults. Sometimes your friends, your colleagues may be saying the same thing, but then you go to someone that's a life coach or someone that's a professional and you receive it where that other person was really telling you the same thing, but you kind of hold them to a higher standard and you value it a little bit more.
I totally agree with that. It's almost like it's a different ear.
Yeah.
And the irony is sometimes we'll have your parent, like you said, especially in your case, your instance, right? You do public speaking, you're an author, you're a mentor, and yet you can give advice that people will pay you for. You can give it to your children for free, and it falls on deaf ears. It's like, don't you know people pay me for this, son? I'm giving it to you, so stop playing with me. Third and final word, and I purposely put this one. I don't know that you said it in this order, but I purposely put this one as the third word because of the weight I feel it holds. Not to say the first two weren't important. They were absolutely important. But this third word holds some real weight. And I won't lead it. I'll just drop it and see where it goes with you. Empowerment. How important is that word to you? Empowerment.
Very important to me. Um, you know, a lot of times we now hear people using that word, but when I first started, I really didn't hear the word a lot. And for me, it was very personal, because empowerment to me is really allowing someone the freedom to truly believe that you can really do whatever it is that you put your mind to. You deserve to be in these rooms. You deserve to be in these tables. You deserve to chase your dreams. You deserve to just live your life and live your life unapologetically without owing anyone any explanation, because you are meant to be here and you have a purpose.
I hope the listening audience, the platform, when they tune into this episode, that really resonates, because the power in those words, and as you stated in the first portion of it, is it wasn't a common word.
Yeah.
As important as empowerment is, it's under you. A lot of times we say, oh, something is so cliche, but there's power in words, and that word empowerment, the irony that it's the word that's
Yeah.
used the least. Ask you a couple of questions, because again, here on the platform, we're not knocking us for being this way, because it's needed. So we have a male perspective on a lot of things. So the value of being able to get the woman perspective on it, on a question. One question I'd like to ask is, what, if in your own words, this could be you, or this could be perhaps a discussion you've had in an empowerment meeting you've had with a group of women. what women wish their father told them. If there was something like if you could sit down with a young woman or a young man and you can have a conversation with them and say, you know what, based on my experience, perhaps from dating, perhaps from my current relationship, it's good, it's great, nothing's perfect. So sometimes we focus on some things that can better our situation, our relationship, or interaction with someone. And sometimes it could be as simple as, boy, if somebody would have caught you growing up and told you this, anything strikes you that would be a good idea of what women wish their father told them about you're about to go out into this world.
Well, I'm gonna just speak personal if that's
Please,
fine with you, because I did grow up with my father.
please.
Um, but I'm gonna say independence. And I'm gonna say independence, not I'm an independent woman, I don't need a man and none of that.
Right.
But independence in the fact that you should be able to do some things for yourself. And when you do have a partner,
Mhm.
you are supposed to be able to add to his life
Mhm.
as well as him add to yours. But you should never feel like there are things that you cannot do. A lot of times we hear the word independent, we're thinking, I can pay my own bills, I can do this, I can do that. But one of the things that my father really instilled with me was that nothing's free, number one.
Right.
And there are some basic things that you just need to be able to do. So he took me outside and showed me how to check my tire pressure. He showed me how to check my oil, because he said, I never want you to be in a position where you're standing around, you're waiting on someone to come and do some simple things that you can do for yourself. I also don't want you to be in a position where someone takes advantage of you because you can't do some of these things, or you're too trusting or too dependent to where you thought they were going to do these things for you, because you couldn't do it for yourself.
I like that. And let's say if that's a 1A, I'm going to pull a 1B out of that. Because you have a clear understanding of, as a woman going out, a young lady going out into this world to become a woman, and my father told me these things. Let's look at the other side of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Now this young lady has to be prepared with this mindset. So imagine if she has that mindset and the young man she's about to meet has this same identical mindset. What are some things that a father can be sharing with his son to prepare him, so that though she's prepared to bring those things to the table, he's equally prepared to bring that to the table, receive that at the table from this young lady who's been raised this way, as well as try to lessen the opportunity or the chance of these young men taking advantage of these young ladies who just maybe they weren't given this information. So now, because she's vulnerable but not taking advantage of that vulnerability, what are some things that you wish or would like perhaps dads or fathers to share with their sons going out into this world?
Wow. That's a good question. Um, I think it's a really big deal for just parents overall with their daughters and sons
Mm-hmm.
to have a conversation that, it's not like it was back in the day.
Right.
There's no such thing as the man is supposed to be doing that. The woman is supposed to be doing that. I think one of the really big conversations that men need to really have with their sons is that, son, I want you to be able to do some things for yourself. You may or may not have a woman in your life. And just because you have a woman in your life, that is your helpmate, that she is on your team. Sometimes y'all have to tag team and get dinner done. Sometimes y'all have to tag team and take the kids places. Sometimes she just may need you just to be there to comfort her, and vice versa. So don't ever think that, just because she's a woman and she seems strong, that she can handle all these different things and that's less for you to do. You're her helpmate. She's your helpmate. So know that in a relationship, whether it leads to marriage or not, because really, as we're going into this dating scene, if we already kind of have that mindset, then we're going to go into relationships knowing that we are equal. We both have a role here, and you are my teammate. I'm your teammate, and let's do life together. And if you have that mindset and you've raised your son that way, he's not going to sit around waiting on her to cook, her to clean up, her to take care of the kids. And then he's talking about what she doesn't do, or she's always tired, or she's not fixing herself up anymore. She's not attractive anymore, and all these different things. She probably is tired if she's doing all these different things versus you are still helping her.
Right.
And you guys are acting as a team. So now when it's time for y'all, guess what? You're just as excited as she's excited because you both are in this moment of deserving because you are working through life together as a team.
The wording and the importance of teamwork, assistance together, that drives that home because, again, burnout is a real thing. You can get so caught up into this is traditionally or habitually, this is the role that I've been playing, or this is the role that my significant other has been playing. So because we're equally playing these different roles, we'll get so caught up into routine that no one steps out of their typical bounds, if you will. So now you lose contact or awareness that I haven't checked on you in this area. Like, let me grab that. And now they kind of look at you like, okay. So I really like how you worded that because that's very important. So if I can shift a little bit, just a tad, because I foreshadowed a little bit. I said we wanted to tap into you and that motherly guidance with that 16-year-old young man.
Just a little bit of backstory. There's a gap between my kids' ages.
Okay.
And, I had the girls and naturally, I really wanted to be a role model for my girls, especially just to be able to show them, a lot of times parents tell them, but it's one thing to lead by example. And so I really wanted the opportunity to be able to have a son.
Yes.
And so God blessed me with that opportunity to have a son, and it's different with a son. It really is. And my son, if I'm just being transparent,
Please.
It's a little bit different because he's the baby. But that doesn't change anything else. Just like I talked about, my father wanted me to be independent. And I wanted my daughters to be independent. And even though he has his mom, he has older sisters, that have done a lot of things for him. It's still important that my son is independent.
Yes.
Because that's so important. So with my son, he knows that I am always rooting for him. My kids know, period, that I am going to get them in line. But, also as parents, it's one thing that we are pouring into our kids and we are telling them things. But I think a lot of times what parents miss is actively listening to their children. We see that they have these talents. We see that they have these gifts, and we'll go full-fledged behind these talents and gifts when, at some point that child may lose interest in it. But you had this child playing basketball and you have dreams for your child going and playing college basketball, but your child wants nothing to do with that. But at this point, you're still making them do it. So you notice out there, their heart is not in the game. You notice out there not trying as much. So when my son was younger, my son was, this really outspoken kid, really likable kid. He's very great at electronics, just a smart kid, been reading since he was 4 years old, always picked up a lot of different things. But along the way, I started to see some things shift. When he was younger, of course, I wanted my son to play a sport.
Yes.
And so I put my son in soccer. And so my son played soccer and he enjoyed soccer. But more or less, I saw that he was losing his interest in soccer and he was more interested in robotics and technology and designing things. And, you know, as a parent, you have to make a choice. No, son, now you're going to play soccer, or you know what? I never thought about this robotic thing, but he seems to enjoy it. So guess what? I'm about to get on board with robotics. And just a learning moment for me. I remember when he was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 10 years old. And of course, he was in robotics. And he had been in robotics in 4th grade. And then when he went to 5th grade, he was on the robotics team again. And so all the kids on his team were new.
Yes.
They had never been on robotics before. And the way my son is, like, you can't tell him he can't do something.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Or you don't know something, because he's always been the kid. He's going to go look it up.
Yes.
And I'm the parent that I'm going to buy you what you need, but this is your project. I'm going to kind of stand back, because if anybody asks you about it, I want you to know about it. As parents, sometimes we want to sit down, we want to hold their hand through life. But if we do that all through life, what's going to happen when it's time for them to get out here and live life?
Yes.
And I remember when it was the day of the actual competition.
Yes.
And I walked in there and I looked at his board. And to me, I was thinking to myself, but I didn't say it. This boy looks a mess. Like, I should have helped him. I should have said something,
right,
you know, or whatever.
Right.
But I didn't. So, you know, it came down for the competition. It was for kids between 5th and 8th grade. So he was really young, one of the youngest ones in there.
Yep.
And his teammates were kind of like fussing and like, I don't know why you signed us up for advance. We've never been, you know, in advance before. This is our first year. He was like, well, I have experience in it.
Right.
And I believe that we can do it. So we're ready for it.
Yes.
So the judges, you know, went around and they talked to the kids. And at that time, they had designed a robot that would assist in the medical field with getting equipment for surgeries and things like that. And so they walked around and they asked the kids the questions. And of course, the parents weren't in there. But when it came down to announcing the winner, my son and his team won 2nd place to be able to go to Austin. And really, that showed me a lot in that moment.
Absolutely.
It showed me that my son, regardless of what his peers were saying, he truly believed in himself. It also showed me that when I looked at that poster, I thought, man, I should have did this and I should have did that. But sometimes we got to just stand back and we got to look at them and let them live their life and look at life through their eyes and what they see. And so, you know, I really believe when my kids take interest in something, I kind of sit back, because we know that sometimes things change. And even for me, I had a strong interest in something, but I remember sharing that. And I remember feeling a lot of pressure that even when I felt like I wanted to change, it was going to be hard for me to really share it with my parents, because they had their own dreams for me. So for me as a parent, with my daughters and my son, I sit back, I listen. You're telling me the things that you like, but I'm not going to even really talk about it a lot. I'm not going to even really ask a lot, because kids are real quick to, when you pour into it and you talk about it so much and you're so wrapped in it, they're going to change and they're not going to even want to do that. So if we kind of just stand back, just kind of watch them, every now and then just ask a little question here and there, we're going to see that they're going to really chase their dreams, and they're going to live their lives for them, which is ultimately what any parent should want. If your child is happy, they're not in jail, they're not doing anything wrong, they're able to make an honest living for themselves and their family, and they're happy, and they're like, man, one thing about it, I knew my mama was always there for me. I knew my daddy was always there for me. It wasn't even about what they wanted.
Right.
They just believed in me and they supported me. And to me, that's the magic of being a parent, whether you're a mother or a father. We got to let our children live their lives and chase their dreams, not the dream that we have for them.
Priceless. And I say that because I can't tell you how many times we've had, again, we being D. Jones and I, conversations about that very thing, about overly inserting ourselves, especially dealing with the sports thing, right?
Mhm.
We as dads will come in, and parents, I don't want to be just monotone, but I'm a dad, so I speak from the dad's perspective. As a dad, once our son says something about sports, it's go time. Even though we may be hesitant in the beginning, and it's funny because D. Johns and both of our sons just came off of a stint where they did the whole basketball thing, baby Jordan and baby Kobe, at home. Get to the gym, different story. However, we're hesitant because we don't want to overly invest. You know what I mean? I'll support you,
Right.
but at the same time, I'm in the back of my mind like, let's see how this turns out. So as they kind of move forward with it, and you start to see perhaps the interest is their level of interest doesn't necessarily match our intensity as the parent. And the key thing you said was give it to them, step back, observe. That's hard. That's hard. Parents truly struggle with that because especially if you see a thing, just like when you saw that poster board, his board, and you were like, "Ooh, if I would have just put my hand in there, I would have. No way I would have let you come out here like that, son." But look at the progress. Look at the result he got on his own, and you instill something in him that he didn't know was happening. You tell me about it because once that interview came around, he already had his own understanding of it. Whereas again, the basketball analogy, we're taking our sons to the gym. We're doing extra training, extra time, and we're putting our version of work ethic, our version of preparation, our version of polished, finished look. And that's not necessarily within your skill set.
Right.
Maybe you're a different type of player. Maybe you're a supportive role type player, whereas your son took the lead on the project with a team full of supportive members that didn't even believe in themselves.
Yeah.
So there's a lesson in that. So because there's a lesson in that, without dragging too far into, because we can do this all day, but I would like to focus more. Before I do that, I'd be remiss if I let this opportunity slide. We have discussions on the platform about default parenting, meaning especially sons. Sons always want to go run talk to mom. I want to go ask mom this, and I want to go ask mom that. You had 2 daughters first, then you had your son. We can be honest here. Maybe they'll see it, maybe they won't. Do you have a favorite between your son and your daughters?
That's so funny that you asked that because I have the three children, and honestly, they all think one of the others is the favorite. None of them will say the same name. The older thinks it's the baby.
Right.
The baby thinks it's the oldest, and the middle the baby thinks it's the middle, and the middle thinks it's the oldest.
Absolutely.
So they all think it's each other. Which when I share that, everyone's like, "Well, you did a good job."
Yes.
Because I make them all feel equally important, and they are.
And that's nice. And that's lovely. And we can almost run for office with that answer. However, we really want to know in your heart of hearts. And
well, I'm going to say this.
Please.
There are always all your children are different.
Correct.
And there are some children that test you.
Correct again.
A little bit more than the other. But that does not mean that they're the more favorite child or not. It may have been a little bit easier raising them, than the other ones. So I would say I do have one that was a little bit easier with me raising than the others.
Okay. We just went from Kamala to Condoleezza Rice. So we're getting a little closer here. Yes or no? Let's try this. Yes or no? Is mama's son her favorite more so than our daughters? You don't have to answer that if you want to, but we prefer an answer. And if I don't have a favorite, if you want to stick to that.
No.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there.
We have a special bond. I'm going to say that, but no.
Tomato, people. I knew we would get it out some kind of way. That's fine. So we're at a special key point in the episode. I don't want to leave without covering some things. The book. Let's talk about your book a little bit. Again, the title where it can be found, your motivation, the overall message, without giving it away, because obviously you want the audience to read it. What is the title of the book again?
Dare to Dream, a guided journal for confidence and success.
Yes. So if you had to get the people, if you will, to show interest in this book, what would it be about? What is the book about? What is the main purpose? Obviously, it's a descriptive title, but again, don't judge a book by the cover. So what would you say, in your words, the importance or the take-home message of the book is?
Well, the biggest thing is, again, being able to dream. And in the book itself, there are activities for you to really be able to do, because some of those activities are really used to help you really navigate and guide you towards your dream. One of the things that I have in the book that's really a big deal that can prevent you from chasing your dream or help you chase your dream is evaluating your circle, the power of 5. So for me, in the book, there's a section where who are your 5 people in your circle that without a shadow of a doubt, you can tell them, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And they're going to be like, you know what? You can do it, because I think that is so important. And everybody in your circle does not need to be your family. Some of the people in your circle need to be someone that has seen you at your darkest moments of your life, also at your highest moments of your life. Somebody in the circle needs to be your family. Somebody in the circle needs to be someone neutral, someone that regardless if you are off the chain right now and they need to reel you back in, it's coming from a good place. You don't need somebody in your circle that's just always yes, 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 because they're not going to hold you accountable. So that is a big deal to me. I don't call everyone my friend. Now, for women, everybody's sis. Everybody not your sis. Everybody's not your bro. So to me, really evaluating your circle, really knowing your why. We're at a time right now that social media has such a heavy influence. And people see somebody else doing something, it's not their dream. But because you see them doing it, they've made it look easy. They've made it look like something you want to do. You don't even realize that God has birthed gifts inside of all of us. But you're too busy trying to chase someone else's dream and doing what it looks like is really working for them, where you're really not sitting with yourself and you're not evaluating the gifts that God has really given you and what your real dream is. And first of all, if you don't really know what your dream is, discovering what things really drive you.
Yes.
What things are you really passionate about? What is your why? What is your purpose? So all those things are important. So in the book, I have prompts, I have questions for you to really ponder, for you to really think about as you are really navigating your dream. Because as we were talking about the children and allowing the children to really chase their own dreams, we can sit here right now, and if we think about our own lives and what dream we had as a child and how that dream changed as we went through adolescence, till we went through college, till we became a parent, and even now, right now, we cannot say that we are still doing that, what we dreamed about at 5 years old, because sometimes God has you to pivot. Sometimes life experiences causes your dream to kind of shift, causes it to change. And when it's your passion, when it's your purpose, you are so inspired to chase that dream because you know that God gave you that vision. And if God gave you that vision, he's going to make the provision. No one else has to believe in your dream. No one else has to see it the way you do because it wasn't for them. It was for you. And so if anything, I want people to know, do what makes you happy. Do what you've dreamed about. And having a supportive partner is a big deal. Because sometimes, you have a dream, your partner has a dream, and you have to, as a wife, you have to realize that's your husband's dream. Right. It may not make any sense to you at all. You may be thinking, well, you're going to make some money with this dream.
Right.
Is this going to have you gone all the time and it's taken away from home, and vice versa with her? But you know what? When you're sitting down and going back to what I said before, and you're looking at this thing called life as a team, you know that that's your husband's dream. And babe, that's your dream. You know what? I'm here to support you. If there's anything that I can do, I'm here to help you, and vice versa. So our youth can dream, adults can dream, our elders can dream. But what I don't want anyone to do, because what I don't want to do, I don't want to be 80 years old. And I'm thinking, you know, back in the day, I wanted to do this. But you know what? I had the kids. So I was trying to do everything for the kids, or we didn't have the money. We live in such a great time right now in our lives as to we can really go out here and do something that has never been done before. We see people do stuff and we're like, man, I thought of that before. But you know what? You were sitting back. And so social media can be very powerful, but it's how you're using it. Are you using it just to look at other people's life and evaluate your life and think that you're not doing enough? Are we looking at it to be inspired? Like, I'm listening to this person's story and how they started. They started from rock bottom. They started with this dream that they didn't feel like nobody would believe in, but look at them now. It's also an opportunity to really be able to gain exposure to what you do.
Right.
So use it to be very intentional, which is one of my words, very intentional about how you're showing up. We've sat here through this interview. I've talked about community, mentorship, and empowerment.
Absolutely.
And so I am a walking example of that. If you go and look at my social media, you're going to see my presence in the community. You're going to see me mentoring people. And if anything, you see me bringing people together, empowering them, whether I'm speaking as a motivational speaker, whether I'm sitting down at a brunch or a dinner with them, whatever the case may be, the color was intentional because I am giving a message tied to that color that allows you to be empowered while I'm being empowered myself. And so that's the beauty in Dare to Dream and who Natalie Clark is, and just really what my purpose, my why, and my mission is in itself.
And there you have it, good people. The big take-home message from that to me, I'm a country boy. So what the cliche, if you will, that pulls out of me, when you said that you're not necessarily going to understand my vision. God gave it to me. My gifts and my talents are my gifts and my talents. Your gifts and your talents are yours. But if you're so busy watching my gifts and talents manifest, that those that have been implanted in you, you can't hone those in and express those because you're emulating something that you don't understand because it wasn't given to you.
Absolutely.
So the country boy saying for that is, you can't catch no fish watching my life. You like that? Slid that to old Virginia. But we don't want to talk about that cowboy fan guy, but from the East Coast, make it make sense. But again, Miss Natalie, this was an amazing opportunity. I think this fits perfectly with the message, the theme of National Women's Month, Women's History Month for the month of March. It's going to be a great lineup, great information, empowerment. We really enjoy it. Thank you for coming on to the platform. Anything you have to say or want to say in closing?
Just in closing, thank you for, having me. Thank you for sitting down, talking to me, just learning who Natalie Clark is, just taking the opportunity to really understand my why. If anything, I just want to leave with this message, regardless if you are a male or you are female, the opportunity to serve as a parent is truly a gift. There are many people that want to be parents, but for whatever reason, haven't been blessed with that. And whatever your childhood was like, whether it was good or bad, God has given you the opportunity to do different with your own. So take that however you want to take it, because we are really pouring into the next generation, and those are our future seeds. And so guess what? We want them to go out in this world and truly flourish. And my foundation is called I Am Strong, which stands for I am striving to reach our next generation. And I truly am.
That is truly a blessing. Like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you continue to support those that you love, those that you know, things and ideas that you hear, that you have exposure to. Again, we say it all the time on the platform. It's here today. but without support, it won't necessarily be here tomorrow. So again, like, share, subscribe, pay attention. Thank you for tuning in. God bless. Peace.